The tournament is simple. Of all current NFL players, assuming everyone's in their prime, who is the best? We pick the top 16 players and set up head-to-head matchups. You guys voted. We'll give you the first round results and preview the quarterfinal matchups, all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, I'm really excited about this contest. I can't wait to reveal those first round results, so let's get right into it. In our first matchup, Adams versus Brady, new school versus old school. Both Michael and I endorsed Tom Brady, but it was Davante Adams in the middle of the contest who got a 3-touchdown, 11 reception, 142-yard day. Was it enough? No, Tom Brady moves on, winning 63% to Davante Adams, 37%.
Well, this was a little bit closer than I had expected. I'm a real big fan of Davante Adams, as I mentioned, going all the way back to his Fresno State days and before, and he's continued to show that he's a real talent. He's, I think, in the prime. If he's not, then wow, he's got some better things to come, and it'll be we should revisit this. But Tom Brady can't say enough. I don't know if you heard this last week, and he just broke George Blanda's record for the oldest person to throw a touchdown pass in a playoff game. And he looked again pretty sharp, even though he's definitely well beyond his prime. Hard to go against the GOAT.
All right, who is going to face Tom Brady? It's either going to be at a classic QB showdown or it's going to be two Buck teammates. We endorsed Antonio Brown, but our fans, wow, big time for Drew Brees. In fact, Drew wins in a breeze, 80% to Brown's 20%.
I'm not surprised only because of Antonio Brown's fallout with fans. And I'm confident that that's what happened here to some extent, is that was taken into account. By the way, Antonio Brown's looked pretty good. I think he, could argue that he still has some prime days left, and we'll see how much of an impact he has this year in the playoffs and next year and beyond in the league. If he gets a chance to continue to play, can the league forgive him? Can his fans forgive him? It looks like not the fans that we have. I think this was the wrong result, but Drew Brees, obviously, in so many statistical categories, is right there with Tom Brady, and that's probably why.
The people have spoken. We've got Ezekiel Elliott against Rob Gronkowski, the guy that loves to be fed and the guy that loves to party. Who survived? We gave the edge to Gronk, and so did the fans. It was a close one. Gronk wins 59% to 41%.
Eric, again, I don't think our fans are listening to us. This looked like it was way closer than it should have been. I think we gave a lot of knock on Zeke because of the injury this year, just not necessarily, being able to show what he has yet. We don't know what his prime's going to be like. Where Gronk, we do. We saw his prime, and when he was in his prime, there was no one else you wanted to go up against on the defense, at the position of tight end. So I'm surprised, but I guess it still came out the way we're thinking.
All right. Now, who will Gronk face? Well, I can guarantee it's going to be an athlete because it's either DeAndre Hopkins or Lamar Jackson. I can tell you, Michael, maybe due to our endorsement of DeAndre Hopkins, all the early votes went to DeAndre Hopkins. But then there was a huge late surge for Lamar Jackson. Was it enough? It was not. DeAndre Hopkins wins 69% to 31% for Jackson.
So, Eric, as you and I discussed, we weren't even sure if Lamar Jackson, who was on the bubble, should be in here. But, knowing how athletic he is, the MVP season he had last year, the capability he has, we'll see if he can make a little run here. We saw what he was able to do this week on the ground. But, yeah, I think you're right. I think some of the stats that you spouted out last week really influenced the fans, and rightly so. DeAndre Hopkins is a beast. His longevity is super impressive. And the Hail Murray that happened earlier this year had to help.
Michael, you were prophetic when you said, Lamar Jackson may do well in this playoff run, but it may be too late for him. He may be out of the tournament. He got his first playoff victory this past weekend, but the fans won't be able to vote on it. He's out. All right, let's see. The next player is going to be a big guy at his position, both literally and figuratively. Is it Julio Jones or is it going to be Travis Kelce? We leaned to Travis Kelce. What did our viewers say? Our viewers agreed, said go with Travis Kelce. 68% of the vote to 32% for Julio Jones.
I think once again, the fans got this one right. Julio Jones, unfortunately, had a little bit of an up and down year. I'm sure that impacted things in terms of being out for injury, where Travis Kelce has consistently been a rock for Kansas City.
All right, the next matchup that Kelce will face might be his teammate, or do we have the makings of a monster upset with Christian McCaffrey? Our fans voted. We told them go with Mahomes, and it was a landslide. Mahomes 92%, and Christian McCaffrey only 8%.
Wow. I think that's really unfair to McCaffrey. Obviously, this year he was out for a lot of the season. We know what he's been able to do on the fantasy portion. He's going to be the number one pick again next year. He's been the number one pick the last several years. And when he wasn't the number one pick in the years past, it was a mistake in terms of fantasy results, which is really to some extent correlative to who's the best player. He's in his prime. He's a star. But Pat Mahomes is a Super Bowl champion. Good chance of being a Super Bowl champion again this year. And really no one right now is slinging it better than Pat Mahomes, save perhaps the next guy we're going to talk about.
Well, 2 sins by McCaffrey. 1, getting injured this year, and 2, having a last name close to Mahomes and getting matched up against him. The guy you were referring to was Aaron Rodgers, and we are looking at what I call the old guy bracket to make up our last quarterfinal matchup. It's Adrian Peterson versus Aaron Rodgers. We both said go with Aaron Rodgers, but with a huge reverence to what Adrian Peterson has done many years ago. Will our fans remember it? Will they recognize it? No. This was also a landslide. Aaron Rodgers, 88% to Peterson's 12%.
You know, I really want to give a shout out for Adrian Peterson for what he's done this year as an older running back. Frank Gore, the same thing. It's really challenging to stay in this league at the position of running back. It's just such a physically demanding position. Adrian Peterson not only was a stud in his prime, but impacted the game this year. But Aaron Rodgers, let's admit it, he's going to be the MVP. I don't think there's a question for this year. And he's not in his prime. He's arguably on the downhill portion, and he is still playing top-notch football. He's a fantastic quarterback. Quarterback position gets a lot of credit. Not a surprise.
All right. The very last guy to get into the quarterfinals is either going to be Michael Thomas or Russell Wilson. We both said, hey, Russell Wilson. I had a hard time containing my excitement to urge people to pick Russell Wilson. Our fans have ignored us in the past. Did they do it this time? They did not. 78% went with Russell Wilson, where Michael Thomas, 22%.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by the spread here. I think Michael Thomas, if he hadn't been injured for a good portion of this year, probably would have gotten a better percentage of the vote. He's been the top receiver for several years. He really is to be contended with, even when he's playing against teams that are trying to bracket him. But what Russell Wilson's been able to do without a good offensive line, which hurt him again this year, and we saw that this year with the playoffs, what a stud. He just makes plays even when he doesn't necessarily have the time. So, I think this was deserved.
Well, Michael, it's actually sad. We lost all our running backs. Christian McCaffrey, Zeke Elliott, and Adrian Peterson are all gone. So we are left with 5 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, and only 1 wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. Do we think that's a bias toward people going for quarterbacks, or are these guys just simply the best players?
No, I think it's definitely a bias for quarterback, and that's because quarterback impacts the game more than anyone. Every fan out there has a team that they like, and they're either frustrated with their quarterback or they're thankful that they have one of the few quarterbacks that's able to win week in and week out. And that is really how the league is defined. The quarterback position is so important, even when you have somebody like Tom Brady, who may not be the best athlete out there. So it's not surprising that that bias occurs. I feel the same bias myself.
Okay, well, the polls are now open for the quarterfinal matchups. If you're watching this video, don't forget to smash the like button as well as hit that red subscriber button. Now, you simply go to fantasyfootballconsultants.net and we'll actually put the link that goes directly to the poll in the comment section, the pinned comment section. Michael, let's break down the quarterfinal matchups. The first matchup is a classic battle between two legendary quarterbacks, Drew Brees versus Tom Brady. Michael, you know what? This is such a tough one. How do you break this down?
Well, they're almost statistically identical, right? I mean, in so many different categories, they're right next to each other, and they're very similar in age. Everybody says Tom Brady's so much older than other quarterbacks, but Brees is right there with him, which is what puts him in the same statistical categories. Obviously, there's one glaring difference, which is the number of Super Bowl rings. It's close. What do you think?
Well, I want to give credit to the other guy who's not known for that, right? You think of Tom Brady winning a lot, and he does, 77% of regular season games. But Brees, 60%. I mean, the guy does win. It's only compared to Brady. But I think the question is, Michael, how much is that due to supporting cast? How much is that due to, let me ask you that question. How much is it due to supporting cast that Brady has won so much versus that Brady is somehow a better winner?
Yeah, so I've actually been down on Brady. I'm a Raider fan. I'm still really struggling from the tuck rule, that mistaken call in New England back in 2001 that basically made Tom Brady. I was basically giving all the credit to Belichick over the years, saying that Brady was just, in the system that worked for him. The defense was really what put them on the map. But actually this year, Tampa Bay, seeing what he's done at the age of 43, having to adjust to Arians, deal with some of the challenges that's come with that. Yeah, he's had some talent around him, but so has Drew Brees. It's close. I know we went with Antonio Brown, but that was for kind of really giving credit to Brown versus, over Brees. I know where the fans are probably going to go here. I think I'm going to go there as well, but it's tough. It's tough. What do you think?
Yeah, I just want to say QB ratings, the same, their career. But we have to remember, folks, we are not asking who has the best career. We're not even asking who has the best individual season. Just consider both guys at the prime, who is their best. And we're looking at it quarterback versus quarterback. I just would like to say that, when I think about some of the passing stats per yards, Brees 280 to 263. But again, I asked, was Brees asked to do more versus the thing? You know what? I'm going to lean toward Tom Brady, but I think it is razor close. Now, I normally, before the previous vote, would have said it's going to be a shame if Brady crushes him because I think these guys are close. However, I don't know. Look how many people, 80% went with Brees. Maybe he has a shot at this.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of big Brees fans out there. A lot of people resent Brady. That's going to happen a little bit. The question is, in their prime, who would you rather have on your side? And it's really hard to ignore those 6 Super Bowl rings, even if Belichick was a big part of that. I think the nod goes to Tom Brady here.
Yeah, I will agree. It's sickeningly, Michael, that we always agree so far. All right, what's our next 2 Titans that face off?
So we have DeAndre Hopkins versus Rob Gronkowski. Both had strong wins in this last round. We talked about Hopkins a lot last week with the basically Iron Man that he is, how many games he's missed over the last 8 seasons. We saw what he's done this year. Obviously, a star in his own right, with Gronkowski, who perhaps hasn't been who hasn't had the career that we thought he was longevity-wise, although here he is back and on a winning team yet again, and has 3 Super Bowl rings himself. At the time, he was the tight end that nobody wanted to face, and certainly the tight end that everybody wanted to have from a fantasy perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you've got 2 deserving folks here. You've got what we talked about. I think some people sell Gronk short because he's such a complete player, right? That he blocks, he catches. There's really not a whole lot that he can't do in the position, and he kind of gets robbed of the credit of the 3 Super Bowl rings. Everyone gives credit to Brady, but not him. On the other hand, I have to lean to Hopkins, and it's the things that we talked about last round. The fact that he's done it in 2 different places, and I love the fact of the stat if he got 163 targets and no drops.
That is a phenomenal statistic. I'll tell you, Eric, I'm going to be a little bit, use my fandom a little bit. I can't go with 2 Patriots here. I think the other thing is Gronk, he kind of, the reason he deserves a lot of call out is he kind of changed the face of the tight end when he played, right? It went from being purely a run and pass blocker who would get dump offs every once in a while to somebody who could go downfield, line up in the slot. And Gronk was really the first guy who could do that on a consistent basis. There's some other tight ends I want to make sure we give some credit to from before that, like Gonzalez. I think that we've seen some people show up like Gronkowski since, and so that novelty is a little bit worn off. Where what DeAndre Hopkins has done in terms of his hands and his longevity, on top of really being just an elite receiver, I think gives him the nod as well.
I'm going to repeat something you said, Michael, on the last show. The fact that he would play in 100% of the snaps proves that he's a complete player, right? That they not only can he catch passes, but he can be relied on to do some key blocking. And I'm going to go out on a limb, Michael. I don't think there's a wrong choice you can make with Brady and Brees. I think you can make a wrong choice here. You should not be voting for Gronk. I'm going to get my full-throated endorsement for DeAndre Hopkins.
I support that.
All right, so we got 4 matchups to talk about, 2 down and 2 to go. And you know what? This is going to be a chief decision that you guys need to make. The Kansas City Chiefs, Pat Mahomes versus the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce. Michael, I think this answers the question, begs the question, who makes who better, right? Is Kelce make Mahomes better, or does Mahomes make Kelce better? What do you think?
Well, this one's actually harder for me than I think it's going to be for others because of this quarterback bias that you've already mentioned. Just talking, kind of going from Gronk to Kelce, what he has done in terms of really, he's leading the league in passing yards this year as a tight end. No question, he is the best catching tight end that I've ever seen. He gets open. He knows where to be. He's very quick. He has moves. He's strong enough to block as well. I think he deserves a ton of credit, and that makes it really challenging for me here. Pat Mahomes clearly has had tools around him.
Yeah. I don't want to override what you said because I believe it so heavily, but if I heard you correctly, he did get passed by Stephon Diggs, but he was 2nd overall in receiving yards from a tight end, which is just insane to me. Look at that stat we gave, 6 straight seasons of 1,000 in yards. Guess what? He had 2 of those seasons without Mahomes. So for what it's worth, we've seen him do it without Mahomes. Mahomes hasn't yet had the benefit of doing it without Kelce, and might I add, Tyreek Hill. Let me ask you this question. I'm also a big baseball fan, right? And in baseball fantasy, if you get, for example, a catcher who is an amazing batter, like a Mike Piazza, he's so much more valuable because he is so great because he's so much better than anyone else at his position. Do we have a situation here, Michael, where Travis Kelce is so much better than any other tight end relative to Mahomes versus any quarterback? Should Kelce get the nod on that argument?
Yeah, it's a fair point, right? You have to really think about if we're gonna try and ignore that quarterback bias. I think it's close. I think Travis Kelce maybe could win here because of what you just mentioned. He just has so much value at a position that sometimes, not just from a fantasy perspective, but a game impact, which is the way we're approaching it. It's not a fantasy. Otherwise, maybe McCaffrey would have won last week. That being said, it's just too hard to ignore the impact of the quarterback and the impact that Mahomes has had on the field for the win.
Right. I just want to, in arguing for Kelce, tell people this isn't about who you start your team with because a quarterback is more important. This is just who the best player is. That's what the contest is. We've got to get rid of this QB bias, in my opinion. So let me reveal my pick, Michael. I wrote here Kelce, and then I crossed it out and put Mahomes. It's so close. And I think it is a shame. It's a darn shame if this vote is not close. And I feel like it would be nice if I got on a high horse to argue for Kelce heavily so to make sure that he gets at least 40% of the vote. And I'm worried that he's not going to. So look, I implore 40% of you to vote for Kelce.
Yeah, no, and if he was in one or more of these other matchups, I think he really would have a good chance to move on. But I just think right now so many people are in love with Pat Mahomes, and he's probably not in his prime yet. We never know what's going to happen in the future, whether or not he's going to produce like he has. But right now he's producing.
So you're going, but you agree that it's close.
I agree that it's close enough to where I've struggled as well. There was a time period where I wanted to go with Travis Kelce, but I'm going to go with my man, Pat Mahomes.
This is sickeningly agreement here. What's our last contest, Michael?
Let's see if we can agree on this last one, Mr. Aaron Rodgers versus your Russell Wilson. I'm just gonna, let's put the slide up there. Remind everybody the stats, but I want to let Eric have a chance to argue this one. Good luck.
You are assuming that I am going to go with Russell Wilson, and I am going to fully say this was a hard decision for me. So I actually do not blame anyone, regardless of which player that you pick. I've said that for 3 of the 4 matchups this week. Wow. So let me just start with this. Both sensational quarterbacks. Both can be relied on heavily. If you look at the stats, the yards that they get are almost the same. Yes, Rodgers passes for more, but Wilson runs for more. Their QB rating, almost identical. Then their regular season wins, almost identical. Wilson, 68%, 65% for Rodgers. You look at the stats, and I can't decide purely based on the stats. It's got to go elsewhere. What are the things you're looking at, Michael?
No, I agree. Statistically, they're very similar. This feels a lot like the Brady Brees matchup in terms of talking about it from a statistical perspective. I think the reason I'm leaning heavily towards Aaron Rodgers is because I'm a purist. I'm a purist in terms of the game. I think what Russell Wilson does is very impressive. And he's also done it several years where he hasn't had the offensive line to support him. I think what's challenging for me as a coach is he does a lot of it ad lib because of that challenge that he's been faced. And so what Aaron Rodgers has done year in and year out has been able to come to the line of scrimmage, do the pre-snap reads, do the post-snap reads, make the right decision, get the offside, coming 12 men on the field all the time, make plays the more traditional way, where Russell Wilson has heavily relied on his legs and his ability to open things up, which is great. And it's something in high school you have to do, in college you have to do, and really only Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson have done of late. Maybe Pat Mahomes a little deserves that credit as well. But I'm a purist. I want to see a traditional offense run, and no one has been doing that better than Aaron Rodgers in the last few years, which is why I think he's going to get the MVP, and is why I give him the nod.
So here's what I would say, though, Michael. I think Russell Wilson is with you. He would love to run a traditional offense. But as a Seahawks fan, I can promise you guys, Russell Wilson has not been blessed with a strong offensive line. Almost any point in his career, certainly in his prime years, he isn't like Lamar Jackson, where they design a whole bunch of set running plays. So why does he get so many rushing yards? It's because there's been some breakdown, and he's able to scamper for the extra yards. Now, I want to give Aaron Rodgers credit. Aaron Rodgers does a little bit of that far more than like a Tom Brady, right? That he can run for that critical first down, but he doesn't do it like Russell Wilson. Look, there are two factors that ended up coming down for me. One is the fact that he's been such an incredible Iron Man that he has started 16 games every year for 9 seasons. But it's what he's done with that. The Seahawks have not had a losing season. I'm sorry, they haven't even had an 8-8 season in his era. In the last 9 seasons, 9-7 is the worst record they've had. That's incredible given their supporting cast. Name a bunch of, certainly there was an era where they had a really good defense. So that's the first reason. I want to let you comment on that before I give my second reason.
I definitely want to respect that a lot. I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers has had similar statistics to that or not, but I definitely think that deserves a lot of credit. I'll finish up after you're done here, but I have another thought to add. Please finish your second thought.
My second point, and I was a little surprised to learn this. I knew Wilson did this well, but I didn't know he did it so much more than Rodgers. Again, he's always playing, and he's on a team that isn't that doesn't have the greatest supporting cast. Russell Wilson has 35 career game-winning drives. Game-winning drives meaning in the fourth quarter that you got your team to take a lead that they never relinquished. So Aaron Rodgers, 24, 35-24. Here's the bottom line, and I'm going to let you make the final argument. Ask yourself before you vote, especially if you go on automatic pilot, just who you think. What if the two guys were reversed? That Russell Wilson played his entire career on the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers played his entire career on the Seattle Seahawks. What do you think would have been the wins, and what do you think would have been the stats? I think Wilson's stats would have been better, and Aaron Rodgers a little worse.
Well, that's a pretty bold statement. I think that's enough of a reason for you to go with Russell Wilson. So here's the deal. So I get it. Who would you want in there, right? We say it's not who you want to build your team around, who's the best player, but it's kind of who's the best player because he makes other people around him good, right? Who do you want in there for your last drive? If you don't have maybe the best line in the world and you have to deal with some challenges, I guess I would probably go with Russell Wilson. But if I have to start a game, I know the team that I have and how to deal with it. I want a game plan for that game. I'm for sure going with Aaron Rodgers because I think he knows how to make everyone around him better. And that's important to being the best player. That's why I go with Aaron Rodgers.
That's the beauty of this tournament, that everyone has to define what they mean by the best player. Well, we just finished Subscriber Appreciation Week last week, Michael. I just want to take again another opportunity to thank all of our subscribers. We so appreciate you. We did a bunch of things last week in recognition, and you know what? We appreciate you guys so much. We're going to do a lot of those things again this week. That means both DraftKings and FanDuel coverage, but it also means, Michael, we're going to do a live show again.
That was so much fun, Eric. I'm so sorry I was only able to be there for 30 minutes, but I thought that was a lot of fun. I hope our viewers loved it. When are we going to do that this week, Eric?
We're going to do the live show on Saturday, again, before the first playoff game. It's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. And we just want to remind you guys, vote, exercise your vote. Go on to fantasyfootballconsultants.net or just go to the pinned comment section, click on the link. It'll take you directly to the poll.
Yeah, please comment. We really want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, actually comment who you think is going to win in each matchup. And if it's one of your guys you strongly feel, campaign for them. So don't just say that you think this guy should win this matchup, but why? All right, folks, until we see you later this week, Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you.